So as our two downtrodden franchises are going on, that's the song "Losers" by Post Malone with Jelly Roll, and it's fitting. We are losers. We are with the outcasts. We are the misfits. There's nothing good about either of our teams right now, and we'll break all of that down. So we are three of us. Cardone is missing. I think he blacked out during the game and hasn't come to. So we are the three Angry Giant fans. Your host Scott, Giant Mike, and Angry Jets fan Novak. Like I said, Cardone's missing tonight, and probably a good miss for him because it's just going to be a lot of disappointment, hand wringing, realization the season's over. The Jets have a little bit of glimmer of hope with the new acquisition. Uh, but there's turmoil in Jetland too. Even Fireman Ed's taking shrapnel right now. So
Yeah, it's such a joke. Both of these organizations. I mean, we're not even 2 weeks from Halloween, and both of our seasons are basically over again. Again, guys, what in the hell?
It's I don't know what's left to say that we haven't said. I mean, I have a theory on why Cardone's not here. It's because he's like, what am I going to say? It's the same stuff I've been saying for 5 years. It's exactly the same stuff. Both teams, the Jets and the Giants. The Jets do this a little bit more frequently than the Giants do, but
That's for sure.
they'll play a game. No, in a good way. You see what I mean, Novak? They'll play a game every now and then that makes you think, hey, what's going like the Seattle game a couple weeks ago. But it's always a mirage. It is always just they throw it in there to keep it interesting. I don't know, but it always reverts back to the same thing. 7 points scored, another loss in prime time. What else is there to say?
yeah. It's particularly depressing knowing that not only are the seasons done, but the Giants found out that Andrew Thomas is out for the year. He played the last quarter and a half with a Liz Frank injury. He had surgery on it today. He's done
For the year?
for the year.
Ugh.
Yeah. So they've already put him on IR. This means that Josh Azudu is probably going to take his spot, or they're going to flip Illuminor with Azudu. Well, we'll get into all of that. But before we do, let's give a shout out. And I actually think this might be our new sponsor that we have. So it might be Rugged Uncle that's holding this down because it's one of the few we've had from Tennessee. But hello, Brentwood, Tennessee, population 45,373. It is a suburb of Nashville, and it was originally settled by Stonebox Indians, who constructed earthwork mounds. I don't know what that is. Earthwork mounds. I guess they're formations of earth. But both Mookie Betts and Kerry Collins lived there, as has an entire roll call of famous country singers and a lot of people with really good hair. So that's why I think the Rugged Uncle guy might be there.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. No word on how they got the name Brentwood.
No, I couldn't find anything on why it's called Brentwood. I saw a thing about the Stonebox Indians, and apparently they created these big mounds that still exist today. You can go in and see them preserved. But yeah, I couldn't find an origin for Brentwood.
Brentwood, Stonebox. I mean, it sounds like it is a rugged place.
It is. That's
right?
A good point.
I think Dolly Parton lived there for a while.
You preserve a mound. Doesn't the mound just stay there? I don't.
I'm not sure. So we had two games this week: the Giants and the Bengals in prime time, and then the Jets and the Bills in prime time. The Giants-Bengals came first. Another primetime disaster for the Giants. Daniel Jones is taking a lot of heat for this game. I didn't think he played particularly bad. He did not do enough for them to win. They scored 7 points. The defense played awesome. But they did let up an inexplicable TD run to Joe Burrow, and they did not get a fumble at the end that they should have fallen on. So it was a up and down game the entire time. It was actually really close until the very end. I understand now why Hyatt's not seeing more snaps because the guy just doesn't put any effort into going after the ball. Um, Again, Andrew Thomas let up a couple of sacks, and we found out why he was playing on a hurt foot for most of that game. But Burns, Dexter, and Ojulari had massive games. I mean, Giants really made Burrow look pedestrian, and I actually think they probably concussed him, but you
Yeah,
never know.
at some point in that game.
He's
Yeah,
not.
I mean, I don't put this game on Jones. But I'll talk about Jones a little bit in a minute. I don't put this game on him, but I'm starting to just put the overall black cloud that follows the Giants around on him. I don't really know why, but I'll get to that in a minute. As you mentioned, Scott, defense was lights out, which is why I think this game was lost by our head coach, who refused to punt a team back. And I know we had a new punter. I understand, but it's a punter. We were driving the ball to around midfield, punt it, make them start from the 20 or deeper with our defense playing the way it is. I don't get it. I there was at least one of those that I agreed with. I think that I was like, yeah, you got to do it here. But the first one, the one in our own territory, it's just I didn't get the way he coached that game with the way the defense was playing at all. This was going to be a low scoring game. I think that, by the middle of the second quarter, you kind of knew that, you kind of felt it. Like Scott mentioned, other than Burrow's big run, I mean, the Bengals did absolutely dick for most of that game. I believe the 3 points that were the deciding points of the game came off a short drive when the Giants went for it on fourth down. This is like Dable coached this like the anti-Parcells. This game would have probably gone to overtime 7-7 had Parcells been coaching this game, would be my guess. But hey, when your record is what it is, I get it. Sometimes you they mentioned it on the broadcast a couple of times. One of the few insightful things I've heard the media talk about during the game was, hey, Dable, this is it. I mean, we even talked about it on the podcast. This is a trajectory changer. And Dable played like, that was a game in the playoffs or something. I really don't understand that. It's just another game on the schedule. It was there for the taking, as were many of our losses this year. But I'll let you comment on it, Steve. Then I'll kind of circle back around to Jones.
Yeah, similar to what you saw, Mike. I mean, I actually don't think they scored after we failed on fourth down. I think we ended up getting a turnover on the next series. I can't remember if we did or not. But here's what I do have a problem with on that. You're in your own territory. Even if you pick up a first down, with the way the Giants have to have sustained drives, you could pick up a first down on a risky play and then go 3 and out from there, and you're still punting from your own 40. So that kind of stuff doesn't compute to me when you're looking at some of the decisions Dable's making. The punter Hawk came in and he played pretty well, and I agreed with you. Now, what we do need to find is a new field goal kicker. So this is another game where special teams killed us because our field goal kicker missed 2. I do disagree even with the Dable plan at the end there, where we went for the field goal, I think, too soon. Why risk a 45-yarder? Why not throw another pass down to get to the 20 or so, and you're kicking a 37-yarder, and then go for the onside kick? I get trying to conserve time, but in either regard, you're still behind the 8 ball and you need to get an onside kick. So I would do as much as I could to get the touchdown before going for the field goal. Just a couple of things I disagree with Dable on. What I found odd about this game is that if you go to Giants Twitter or the Giants boards, they're absolutely killing Jones and saying he's the sole reason we lost that game. And I didn't see it. He forced a couple of the fourth down throws, which again you're going for it on fourth down, and it's one of those things that you have to convert. But he didn't. He threw to guys that were in front of him, and I looked like the Bengals knew it was coming. But the Bengals defensive line played pretty well in this game, especially B.J. Hill, the former Giant. And I will say this: Jones is part of the problem. He is not the problem. And if you replace Jones, it's not like you magically overcome all this other stuff that happens. I sort of agree with you on the black cloud thing. I mean, that this is where I am with Jones right now. Is to me at 2-4, this is Jones's last season, and
Yeah.
we're going to have to look to the future. We don't have the future quarterback on the roster right now. I don't think it's prudent to replace Jones with someone who's not going to be here next year. So Locke or DeVito really aren't. It's not a viable option. But to me, Jones is going to be a quarterback who is a victim of both bad circumstance as well as not being able to take advantage of when he had the possibility of excelling. And that's just what it boils down to. So I don't lay this one at the feet of Jones. It obviously wasn't the D's fault. I got to tell you, when I see guys like Slayton putting his body on the line, doing all he can, and then I see a guy like Jalen Hyatt who doesn't even reach his arms up to go after a ball and then complains that he's being interfered with, that I have a bigger problem with, because that shows me a lack of effort. If one thing we know is Daniel Jones throughout his career has always showed effort.
I gotta say,
go ahead, Novak.
I was gonna say, I watched a lot of football this weekend, a lot of baseball. You guys are a tough watch. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Like, and this isn't like me saying the Jets are a great watch either, but man, it is hard to watch the Giants game. It just is. I mean, that said, I think you have someone in this Tyrone Tracy. I mean, this guy seems like he's got a little bit of something. I mean, catching balls out of the backfield, he looks like he can find the holes. You know, he's quick. I like this guy. I like this Johnson tight end too. Can you get him the ball more? But at the end of the day, I was watching the Mets at the same time, so I'd flip over between innings, and I couldn't wait for the Mets to get back on. So I'd turn this game off. It was so boring.
Well, we'll get to the reason I think the Jets game was unwatchable too. It had nothing to do with the same reason you thought about the Giants,
well,
but
we know where that's going.
and
Scott's bringing it up. We know where it's going.
Yeah, well, I think you know where it's going.
Yeah,
too.
of course.
I actually think you brought up Tracy. That to me was Jones's worst play of the game. They have a first down inside the red zone, and on a first down play, he had Tracy open. That was a safe play, and from the replay, it looked like Tracy could have just gone into the end zone if he threw it to him. Instead, he tried to throw across his body with the rush coming at him, and it got intercepted. It's a first down play. At the very least, you have to take a sack there. You cannot force that ball. And for a 6-year player to make that kind of mistake, that's where I start falling down on Jones and saying that can't happen.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I want to talk about Jones a little bit was because, it's what I kind of led with there. Is it just seems like the guy has a black cloud hanging over him. And I can't explain it. I mean, I know there's people who watch him play and think he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. They're insane. He's fine. And if he could get some luck, I guess, or something to go his way every once in a while, he'd probably look a lot better. But, you cannot take away his toughness. That dude runs head first. I'm thinking, is he trying to get hurt to get knocked out of the season? He runs hard. He's definitely, like, he's totally into it. He seems like he sees the field pretty good. But, those fourth down throws, and as Scott mentioned, it's fourth down. You got to throw it. But they were all the same throw. It was to a guy with his back to the defense, like 1 yard past the marker, and Jones just threw it as hard as he could right into the guy's gut, who, oh, by the way, was being mauled from behind by another guy. I'm not saying that was interference, just completely covered on the play. I guess the thinking there is you just throw it in there so fast you force the receiver to catch it. But those are ugly plays. And on at least one of them, he had a lane to run that probably would have got the first down. So I don't even know what to think about this guy. I just know if he does have this black cloud on him, I don't want him anywhere near the Giants anymore. I'd love to see him turn this around and have an awesome second half. In my opinion, 6 games in, not quite half because we play 1,000 games now. I mean, he's had a good start to the season. He really can't, he doesn't really put the ball in danger very much. The interception, I personally didn't see who he was throwing that to, that he felt he had to get rid of it while he was getting sacked on that play. But Scott mentioned he had an outlet early on in that play. If he had just checked it down, it's a whole different situation down there. But I can't put my finger on this guy. Like, I watch other players play and I can say he sucks because of this. Jones is a complete enigma to me. I don't know why he can't get over the hump. I just know that he can't. We've seen it for a long enough sample size now to know that, unless somehow he's able to just turn it around totally. And I don't even know if he knows what to turn around. It seems like he's working and doing all the right things. It just doesn't work for him. It's an enigma to me. Here's the Giants' second half drives, by the way, how they ended. Downs, touchdown, missed field goal, Downs, missed field goal. All of those drives, we got at least close to scoring range on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, if you punt those, I don't know. I don't know. That game's going to be different if you punt them to me.
Yeah. I just feel like you guys are you're in like quarterback purgatory.
Yeah.
Because Jones is good enough with players around him to win 10 games. He's good enough with no players around him to win 6 games, but he's not that bad where he's going to be the quarterback that's going to win 2 to 3. So you're like, that's the thing. When you lost him last year and Cutlets came in and won 3 games that he shouldn't have, you would have had Jaden Daniels right now because we saw in the preseason that's who they wanted. And so
Yep.
I'm not saying tanking is the right thing, but I do remember last year, like you want to win, want to win, want to win. Did you really? Because right now you would have had Jaden Daniels on your squad.
I go back and forth on that because a couple of years ago we wanted to tank to get Chase Young. I don't know how that would have worked out.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, look,
so you never know.
Hindsight's 2020. I get that, but still, when you think about it, like you're going to be drafting 11, 10, 12, something like that this year. What is that going to get you?
Yeah. No, I think what the Giants will do this year, if they are drafting 10, 11, 12, whatever around that range, I think they'll go with a veteran quarterback. It won't be Jones. It'll be a veteran guy, like a Kirk Cousins type. I don't think it'll be Cousins himself, but a type like that. And they'll draft a guy the following year, probably that will take over, or they'll draft someone in that first round pick where he can develop.
But are you giving Dable and Shane another year to live that out?
I am. I'm giving Dable and Shane
another
year. I think they will. I think they will because I actually think. Look, if you look at the draft class this year, you were talking about Tyrone Tracy earlier. I mean, the draft class is a decent draft class.
Yeah.
Drew Phillips looks really good.
Yep.
There are guys in the draft class that have panned out, and I think you have to give this group their own quarterback to try and win or lose with at least 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal take. I don't know if that'll happen.
I'd rather go that route, Scott, and personally go that route, draft in 12 or so, bring in a veteran, and I don't know, try to then take your shot at Arch Manning in 2 years.
Yeah.
Although with Arch Manning, you're gonna have to trade up for him.
Yeah. or we could just ignore the quarterback position for another year and get the first round pick. Get the first overall pick, I mean.
So we also had a game with the Jets and the Bills. And the reason I said it was unwatchable, Novak, is because that game was one of those where there were just flags on every freaking play.
It was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe this is the only time I've actually seen a post-game conference and where Aaron Rodgers complained about his own penalty that happened on him, saying it was not a penalty. And then he said, "What are we playing? Sarcastic ball," which I thought was actually pretty funny. But I mean, there were flags, terrible calls. And it almost, here's what I looked at from this game. You know how we always talk about the makeup call? It seemed like they threw a bad flag, then spent the next 4 plays making makeup calls on a bad flag that was a makeup call of a bad flag of a makeup call of a bad flag. It was terrible. And then after the game, Rodgers threw Williams under the bus on his route running, and then Devontae Adams magically appears.
Magically. No, you're right, man. I mean, look, I'm texting with your brother-in-law, Devin Tier, throughout the game, and we are like apologizing to each other about the officiating. It's not just me, it's also on you. It's not just on you, it's just on me too. Like we agreed that the officiating was it was out of control. It was every single play. And you're right, because the roughing call on Rodgers, I was cracking up. I couldn't believe they called it. And then, like 5 plays later, the Jets have a walk-in touchdown and then a phantom holding call on Tyron Smith. And your brother-in-law texted me. He's like, "I can't believe they made that call."
Yeah,
And they
he was
backed it
texting
up.
me the same time too.
Yeah, they backed it up 10 yards and they missed a field goal. So it's like, look, the game was unwatchable because of the officiating, and it's just so typical Jets. I mean, they were 2-3 going in this game. This was the game they had to have, and they actually looked decent on offense. And Todd Downing, who's the new offensive coordinator, I don't think people recognize Todd Downing was the offensive coordinator for the Titans. 6-7 years ago when they had the Tannehill, Derrick Henry years. They were serviceable. I mean, they were a good team with not a lot of talent other than Henry. And so I was thrilled that he had been promoted and Hackett's been demoted. Um, so a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of play action. I loved that. They even had a flea flicker, like some creativity from the offense. I was happy to see. But this is the stat that I thought was interesting. The last 3 games, Rodgers had the ball on the last drive to win the game and lost all 3. That
2 interceptions, right?
2 interceptions. And of course, yeah, you're right, Scott. He blamed Mike Williams. What a dick. You guys got it right calling him the dick. He is the dick, which the Jets are a clown show. This organization is a clown show. It just is. Our quarterback is named the Dick, right? Which you guys, I give you credit for that. Our owner is named Woody Johnson. Like we've got the Dick and Woody and Johnson. And I've got Darren here today, our intern working. Darren, call up Kuiper. See if there's any seniors coming out of college with last name Penis or Cox, because they're going to be a Jet. I mean, we might as well. They're just. Rodgers is the GM. Let's be honest. 2 weeks ago, he complained about accountability. What happens on Tuesday? Saleh gets fired. Sunday, he complains about Williams not catching that last pass. He didn't say his name, but he did such a masterful job of blaming him. Devontae Adams here on Tuesday. So you know what's going to happen on the press conference after this game, which on Sunday night, another primetime game for the Jets.
Ugh.
Yeah, they're going to be like, "Hey, Aaron, you didn't play so well today, and well, I did some uncharacteristic things. I threw some passes, but when you're down 4 scores, you do things that you don't normally do." That's his masterful way of blaming the defense.
Yeah.
So our
And then
defensive
Reddick.
coordinator is going to be fired. On the next Tuesday.
Or they
This
bring
team-
Reddick in.
Or they bring Reddick in. Exactly. Like this team is a joke. Just stop. So look, there were some positive things. The season's not over. Of course, I was texting you guys saying season's over. It's done, but it's not. They have a chance to redeem themselves, and I'll get to predictions when we get to it. But just really depressing this whole game.
Did you watch the Manning cast or the regular broadcast?
I can't watch the Manning cast when my team's on. I cannot.
So Belichick was on there, and he had one segment where he was saying, "Oh, I'm not a big Jets fan," and then he basically praised Saleh and said, "How can you play for an owner who just shoots to kill every time he wants to get rid of someone?" So
Yeah. I mean, look, I wanted Saleh out, so I'm not going to complain about that. It was the right thing to do. He sucks. And Ulbrich, I think, has the right mentality for this team. But they've got to show up Sunday. Another week where I'm saying they've got to win. It's been 4 straight weeks I've said they've got to win this game. But the season's technically not over. They got Pittsburgh, and then they got New England. So if they can beat Pittsburgh on Sunday, they have New England. That should be a win. They're 4-4. So season's not over. We'll see.
they don't have to face Justin Fields.
Well, we don't know that yet. But I was hoping you get to the Justin Fields thing, because that's pretty freaking funny.
I will in a minute, but yeah,
Okay.
You're right. So Giants play the Eagles, and we have Saquon coming to town. And I was very optimistic about this game until I found out that The Giants crap the bed against the Bengals. Andrew Thomas is out. We still don't know what's going to happen with Singletary. We're assuming Neighbors will be back. But this is it's shaping up to be another one of those games. Saquon's healthy. He's probably going to get 3 touchdowns, and the Giants will go down. Now, what I found interesting is in Cleveland, of all places, Nick Sirianni again was pulling his ass clown moves and jawing with fans on the sideline as that game was ending. You're in frickin' Cleveland, beating the team that has what, 1 win, and you're acting like a fucking jackass like you did in Kansas City the year before. It all went downhill, by the way, after that Kansas City game. I'm hoping that's the same trend
thing.
now.
Yeah, that would be. I'd love to kick off their downhill slide this year. Although they've sort of been in a little mini slide anyway. Even though they've got wins, they don't look like the Eagles, do they? But I kind of agree with everything you just said, Scott. I think this would, if we had just beaten the Bengals and Thomas was healthy and things were just kind of going, I would say, man, this is it. We're gonna put to bed this Eagle franchise this week and get this out of our psyche. But I don't like the way it's shaping up. Thibodeau being out, the impact of that was less felt because Ojulari played so well. He wasn't in there on every play like Thibodeau seems to be, but he made some big splash plays, was around the ball a lot. So that I felt better about that part of it, which I was really bummed about. I think more of Thibodeau than a lot of Giant fans do, but I don't like the way this shapes up. God, and who could have possibly predicted that Saquon would still be healthy right now? I mean, I was sure we wouldn't have to face him. He's the week 3 Saquon injury. Where was it?
We didn't mention it. We didn't mention it about Ojulari earlier, but that play where he had Burrow dead to rights and gave up because he doesn't want to, rough him. And we saw with Burns later. Burns avoided putting his body on Burrow, or that for sure would have been a penalty because of Burrow's neck snapping back and hitting the turf.
Yeah, I thought it might be anyway.
This is all a result of the ridiculous roughing the passer rules.
Scott, I hate to call you out, but that douche Sirianni, that was in Philly.
Yeah.
That game was in Philly. He was yelling at Philly fans.
He was yelling at Philly fans.
Yes, that was the reason that they were so pissed at that guy, because he was yelling back at Philly fans in Philly that game.
He really is a douche, isn't he?
He really is. He's the worst. I mean, I did that whole rant on Douche-Adelphia last week, and this guy solidified it for me.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the tide is turning against him everywhere now. We've been talking about him being a clown for 2 full seasons on this podcast, and now the word clown is the word being used to describe him in the media.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, we've been saying this stuff every time we're calling it ahead of time.
Yep,
every time.
We've sort of tabbed this guy just an ass clown, and now I was surprised when I read it because it wasn't just one person on one show saying it. That multiple people were saying he's just a clown.
Yeah,
and not in a good way. Not if there is a good way. But yeah, that is not NFL head coach behavior. It's not anything his players respect or look up to. We already know, they always try to brush things over, like with Rodgers and Saleh, it was the same thing. Like they don't like each other. I mean, maybe Saleh liked Rodgers, but Rodgers didn't like Saleh.
Rodgers did not like Saleh.
And you can see the same thing here. Jalen Hurts does not like Nick Sirianni.
No.
It's the only time I've ever seen this. Was this 2 years ago or last year, Scott, when Sirianni was going into his clown act, and Jalen Hurts actually came over and
that was 2 years ago, and
looked at him like stop and calmed him down, and you can't be.
That was 2 years. that was 2 years ago. That was also the year he was mugging in front of the cameras when they beat the Giants, that thing on the sideline. And then last year, he was running through the tunnel at Kansas City, flipping
Yeah,
off the
that's
Kansas
right.
City fans. And then they
Yeah.
didn't win a game after that, I don't think. Or maybe they won one.
1-1, I think, after that. Yeah.
Well, after this game, then he brought his kids out to the press conference because he
Yeah.
didn't want to get torn up. Like this
Yeah.
guy, just enough with this guy. I mean, he's not even the real coach because that offensive defensive coordinator, they run that team. He's just and he kept on talking about, oh, I bring the energy. Just stop it. You're a douche. Go away.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna be out of here soon.
Super classy for him to bring his kids out as human shields.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yes.
Yes. That's just awesome, man. Great job.
So, Jets and Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Who are the Jets paying off to get all these primetime games?
That was my pet peeve, so I'm gonna get it out now, and I have a backup. This is week 7. The Jets have been on a non-normal traditional game 5 times in week 7. Now because of the London game, but they have been the only game in town 5 of the 7 weeks they've played. I've gotten to see them on a normal Sunday from 1 or 4 o'clock twice. It's ridiculous. And then they have this. Then they have a normal final Sunday game, and then they're on again on a Thursday night. So it's like, what? Isn't this country sick of the Jets? No one wants to watch them. I mean, come on. What are we doing? This is AWS perfect schedule bullshit. Give me a break. We're watching the Jets more than the Chiefs. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm very curious to see what the Steelers do at quarterback. I'd candidly actually rather see Russell Wilson because the Jets are not good with running quarterbacks that can, they don't see something and then they take off. That's a huge weakness for the Jets. So, and I can't believe I'm saying this because Russell Wilson or Justin Fields sucks. But I'll get to predictions in a minute, but it's a must-win game, and it's in Pittsburgh on a Sunday night with a great coach team. We'll see, but you'll see what I say in predictions.
It's funny because people are talking about Justin Fields getting replaced, and all of a sudden now Justin Fields is elevated in people's minds because they're listening to the media, and they're like, when's the last time a quarterback with a winning record has been benched? Well, I can think of one that happened in the Giants. Kurt Warner was replaced by Eli Manning when he was 5-4.
Yeah. Everything every coach has ever done, every play they've ever called, everything that's ever happened with Justin Fields as their quarterback, they are telling the media and they are telling the fans, we don't trust this guy and he sucks.
Yeah.
However, the media doesn't accept that and say, maybe there's something behind the curtain. Maybe they know something about this kid that's, by the way, this kid they see every day in practice, the guy they drafted, the guy that's been in mini camps 3 or 4 years now, maybe they know something we don't know. No, the media calls them stupid for doing it. I want him out of the league, but part of me, I only want him out of the league so it makes me look smart. But I want him in the league because I do enjoy watching him suck, and I want him to go to a third team and have this thing play out again. And if you're in the film room, you're studying film, you're watching Justin Fields. If you are now going to Russell Wilson, who hasn't played a good game in 2 seasons, then the things you're looking at and the things are that Justin Fields is missing things that Russell Wilson wouldn't miss. That's really probably what it comes down to. Yeah, great. He ran for 17 yards on this. We had a guy, on an out and up who was standing in the end zone without anyone within 40 yards of him. That's what's happening, because I tend to think, hey, Pittsburgh probably not going to be any good with Wilson anyway. Actually in their specific case, Justin Fields might give them a better chance to win. But I think it's interesting that they are going to Russell Wilson right now.
Yeah.
Because they have all the cover they need not to. They could say,
Absolutely.
we'll see how the season plays out. Justin's doing a good job right now. We're going to stick there, but they're not. That's not what they're doing.
I mean, you look at, we've talked about Mike Tomlin, how good he is. Is there any of much more of a bigger indictment about this guy's abilities than Mike Tomlin, who's been around forever, benching him at 4-2? Like
Yeah.
there should not be another scenario that we can imagine that isn't more of an indictment of this guy than that.
Well, I heard last week after the game, Justin Fields leads the Steelers to another victory. And then you look at what happened in that game, and no, he
Lead him
didn't.
to shit.
It really wasn't Justin Fields that did it.
No, never. Maybe one game this year that has been an even close to accurate statement. He turns the ball over. He's not heady. He runs when the defense invites him to run sometimes. It's the book is completely out on him. Now he's one heck of an athlete, man. And it seems like there's another position he could play in the NFL because he handcuffs you as your quarterback. And I think the Steelers the Steelers, but the Bears were in it too. You get in a situation with these guys the same as Denver got in with Tim Tebow. In that it would be wildly unpopular to bench him because the fans think he's good. Oh, he won a playoff game, but you can't sustain that with this guy as your quarterback. As a head coach, as a guy who watches tape religiously, what am I going to do with this guy? Now the Broncos found the perfect out. Well, Peyton Manning's coming. Sorry, sorry, Tebow. And then the Bears got the perfect out. Well, we drafted this guy one. Sorry. So, the Steelers, I maybe they thought they had enough cover with Russell Wilson, but I think they're going to fail no matter who they have back there. I know I'm saying this about a 4-2 team. It seems hard to believe, but they can't sustain what they're doing.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the one thing when I look at the Steelers, I think they're doing this with smoke and mirrors. I don't know how they're 4-2.
I don't either.
Part of it has to be, their strength of schedule that they've played.
Yeah.
But for God's sake, they're
now coming up. They've got the Jets and Giants back to back out at home.
Yeah, and both in primetime games, right?
Yeah,
because the Giants game is a Monday nighter, isn't it?
You guys are on primetime again.
Yeah, because I wanted to go to the Steeler game until I found it was a Monday nighter. I'm like, that's going to be really tough for me to pull off. Because our friend of the pod, John, is going to that game, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go to the game?" And I was looking at it, I was like, "Well, it's a fucking Monday nighter."
Yeah, it's Monday nighter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the Steelers, no matter who they play, very well could be 6-2.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, no doubt.
So looking around the league, the Giants not only did they lose to the Bengals, but they lost an opportunity to pick up games on the Cowboys and the Redskins both. Lions Cowboys game, Jerry Jones's birthday. Jerry Jones nearly had a meltdown on that, and I'll tell you what about the Lions. And I this is going to backfire on Dan Campbell at some point, but the number of times that they call the Lions creative because they're pulling out trick plays is getting a little tiring to me. They're running plays and everyone's like, oh, it's almost like what you see with the Chiefs. Oh, this creativity. I don't know if I call it creativity. It's just you're pulling out plays that other teams haven't been using.
This 100% is that Ben Johnson trying to get the next great job. Think it is nothing else but that. This guy is like, I'm going to get noticed even more, and every time I do this and every time we win, the price for me is going up and up and up and up. I'm telling you, that's what this is.
You're not wrong, because they show Ben Johnson now on the sideline every.
Of course.
Yeah. He's a solid level on that during that game against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And honestly, you could see I see this coming. Andy Reid's going to retire at some point, and I can see this guy going over there and just being the next great coach, taking over a great team. Like this Ben Johnson, his stock is inflated every freaking week with this team. And they were lining up, 2 linemen out at wide receiver at one point, which I think was a bit of a shot to the Cowboys, and I loved that, candidly, because of the ineligible or eligible linemen or whatever last year, that whole mess. But yeah, I think that's what this is. But I enjoyed every minute because I can't stand the Cowboys either.
I have a laundry list of favorite Dallas Cowboy losses, and that one gets right up in the top five. I loved every second of that game. Offensive lineman running around out for passes, triple reverse flea flicker to a tight end. I just can't, I couldn't have him pour it on enough in that game. I wish there was another quarter in that game. That would have been. I could have watched that forever.
So we're
I don't. Cowboys, of course. The Cowboys, of course. The one game against us is the outlier in rushing defense. Anyone else can do anything they want against the Cowboys.
Yep. Just like Bengals. The Bengals came into that game with one of the worst scoring defenses in the league, and they held us to 7 points.
7. Yeah, it's got to be epic.
Yeah. So we were talking about the flags in the Jets-Bills game, but there are 8 teams now that are averaging more than 9 flags thrown per game. Every team is averaging more than 5, and the average game has over 15 flags thrown in it. Guys, the league has to do something, because I think actually after the Jets-Bills, there's sort of a groundswell that I've seen on Twitter about the number of flags and how games are becoming unwatchable. And what you're starting to see, too, is former pros talk about this. So it's not just fans. You're starting to see former players go, what's going on, NFL? What are you doing here with the flags? Yeah. And I'll get to it in my pet peeve a little bit. But before I get to my pet peeve, this is just one of those things where you're seeing people take over the game from the officiating side a lot of times on plays that don't need to be flagged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There has to be common sense brought into it. That, and there's so many potential penalties now that are points of emphasis. You used to hear that, they're paying attention to that this year. This year it's clearly offensive linemen downfield, which for years, the Patriots and the Packers have been running screen passes with linemen just coming out of their stance and bolting down the field, so it's, you would think it would take away from the offense versus defense. So in that way, it's like, maybe I don't mind it so much, but it's crazy. Games are unwatchable. We've talked for the last few weeks, a lot this year, about how we are now officially to the point where you don't cheer when the play happens. Mm-hmm. You wait for the flag.
Yep.
The big pass to Slayton that got called back this week. That was one of those. I was like, just wait a minute. Sure enough, there it is. Which, by the way, they threw that flag
when he was at the 40
after Slayton caught the ball.
Yeah.
So apparently, if that's incomplete, they don't throw the. I don't know, but they're just got to add common sense to the game. Go back 2 weeks to Slayton again with his first down celebration. What's the point of calling that? How did that impact the game? How did the Giants gain an illegal advantage by Slayton doing this? I don't. That kind of stuff is nonsense. Scott has the perfect. If you want that stuff out of the league, the solution, don't penalize a whole team for it don't impact the game for it. Fine their ass off. Make it $100,000 when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just that'll get rid of it. And it doesn't make any sense. They have to have less penalties and they have to call them less often. And I'll never be convinced that the whole penalty thing is on the up and up until they stop, which we've been talking about from day one of this podcast, until they stop the repetitiveness of there's only holding on first down. There's only defensive holding on third down.
Well, and you brought up a good point about the Slayton call too. It's when the flag is thrown sometimes. Novak brought this up during the Chiefs-Bengals game, and actually we talked about during the Chiefs-Jets game last year when Sauce was flagged. When the flag comes out, sometimes it gives the appearance, at least, that the official was waiting to see if the pass was completed before throwing the flag. You should be throwing the flag regardless if that's a penalty. And so when you don't, it gives the appearance of impropriety.
Yep.
I'll tell you what I had a problem with in this Giants Bengals game is the spread was 3.5. And in that game, the Bengals broke through the line and ran for a touchdown when they could have just taken a knee at the one or whatever to make it a 10-point game. And I thought to myself, there's something there with the way the flags have been, with the way things have been called, and all of a sudden you're people have spreads in mind sometimes when these things are happening. At least that's the way it's appearing to me as gambling creeps more and more into our vernacular as we're watching the games.
Yep.
And I can't get it out of my head on if it's intentional or unintentional and it's just happening.
I mean, Scott, you've said it before, and I tend to agree with you. If the flag does not impact the play of the game, don't throw it.
Yeah.
Don't throw it. If it's on the other side of the field and the quarterback was never looking to that side, don't throw a holding call on the secondary when the throw is to the other side of the field. I mean, even in the Jets game when Braylon Allen got a running touchdown, they called Tyron Smith for a hold. It was like 15 feet away. Even if he had not held that guy, he's not getting a hand on Braylon Allen. Don't throw the flag. Just stop. Let him go. Because otherwise, we're throwing a flag on every single play. Enough. Like, if it impacts the play, I get it. If it's a clear pass interference, I get it. If it's roughing the passer when the ball is out of his hands and it's in the air and then you knock him down, fine. But all these other ones that are close, let it go. Let him play.
Yeah. It's, for years and years on that offensive, I want to make this clear. I don't want anyone to think he was downfield. There's no question. That was, by the rule book, that was the right call. There's no doubt about it. But it just, for years and years and years, the purpose of that call was like, who cares if a lineman's downfield, right?
Exactly.
Unless they're blocking someone who's not a defensive lineman or a linebacker.
Yep.
So that's the reason the rule's in there. The rule's in there for the very thing that the Patriots and Chiefs have done for years. They get linemen 5, 6, 8 yards downfield before the quarterback lets go of the ball on a screen pass. But they never called it then.
Right.
they never called it then. So now it's a point of emphasis. And to your guys' point, what impact on the play did Thomas standing 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, touching nobody, have?
Nothing.
And I think this is what happens, Mike, too. The official looks at the play going downfield, and then he looks and he sees Thomas and goes, "Oh, I got to call this," and he throws the flag because that flag comes out when Slayton's at the 40-yard line. So at that point, the pass has been completed.
Yeah.
They didn't see Thomas downfield at the outset of that. And what infuriates me most about that is that the officials missed a clear downfield on the Cowboys when the Giants played them just a couple of weeks ago on the Dowdell touchdown.
Well, yeah, that guy he wasn't only downfield.
He was blocking.
He was downfield blocking, and it was like 8 yards downfield. He's blocking a guy out of bounds.
So I don't get what infuriates me the most is that they throw a flag that hasn't impacted the play. It's a point of emphasis, and it's one that they retroactively throw because of what the result of the play is.
Yep.
And that's what gives the appearance of impropriety.
Yeah. Well, to go back to your other point about lines and stuff, Scott, you know that for years, since the beginning of time, the NFL has purposely stayed away from gambling, endorsing gambling, doing anything like that for the very reason you just pointed out, is because players know the lines, coaches know the lines.
Al Michaels knows the lines.
Al Michaels always knows the lines.
Oh yeah, he does.
And it can creep in. It can creep in, and not even officials know the lines. You don't frown on gambling. You can't punish someone for gambling now. You advertise it on your network. So, unless they're betting on their own team to lose, who knows what rules they have in the NFL for that stuff. But it's out there now. The genie's out of the bottle. It's not only that it's not frowned upon anymore. I would guess that the combined dollars that these gambling sites are giving to the NFL right now is more than any other single market, maybe other than beer, for the NFL. And you can't help, even if there's nothing there, like you said, it reeks of impropriety, and the doors are open, and we're early in on this experiment right now. But how do you not look ahead and know, in the next decade there is going to be a major gambling scandal in the NFL?
100%, no
Uh,
doubt,
there's no doubt
no
about it.
doubt, no doubt.
Yep. And it's going to take down a couple of refs, and they're going to blast those refs as if they're acting independently, alone, just like
Yeah.
Tim Donaghy in the NBA. So we're treading on my pet peeve a little bit there. But guys, the other part that I want to talk about around the league, and it impacts the Jets a little bit, is Amari Cooper going to the Bills. I think that trade may have actually as much impact, if not more, than the Adams trade to the Jets.
Well, the fact that the Bills made a trade and they are on the hook for $860,000, and the Jets are on the hook for $11 million because of the dick. Yes, it impacts the Jets. When I saw that, I was like, yet again, and I ripped the Bills for trading with the Chiefs earlier this year, but yeah, of course it matters. It's a great trade, smart, well done. But the Jets are making trades to satisfy the dick. Which that whole sentence right there is really, really awkward, but it's true.
Yeah, I Amari Cooper for me is in the same mode that the Giants were in coming into this game in Cincinnati. He's in the show me mode. He hasn't done it in so long. I don't know what he's still capable of.
I will tell you this, though.
Adams,
I didn't
I've
realize
seen be
this.
good recently.
By the way, I didn't realize this. Just last year, I think Amari Cooper had a game where he went over 200 yards receiving.
For the Browns?
For the Browns. I do believe that's the case. I could be wrong.
Who was the quarterback?
I think it was who was the quarterback, and was Flacco?
Oh, Flacco.
Cleveland?
Maybe it was.
I think
one
it was
of those
Flacco. I think
games.
it was a Flacco.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'll have to look it up, but I think that was the case.
The Bills are one of those teams, though, where they just throw a bunch of guys out there, and they're all faceless, nameless guys, and they seem to just be able to do it. Like, this is just another guy. That's what happens when you have a quarterback with that much talent that doesn't get concussions. I mean, that's what happens.
So when I look at Aaron Rodgers anymore, I think he used to be a rugged uncle. And now that he's a gray beard, he just looks dejected. Like, you see him on the sideline, he does not look like a rugged uncle. He needs to get back to the swagger he had when his hair was flowing and he had Wagyu beef tallow in it. Yes. It was coursing through his follicles. So, rugged uncle is the gold standard for men's styling butter. And Aaron Rodgers used to smell fantastic. He doesn't smell fantastic now.
Nope.
He probably used to wear leather before he went into the dark retreat, and I'm not sure if he does now. I don't think he rides a Harley without a helmet. And I can see him in a smoking jacket, but I don't see him in a smoking jacket in a casino. I just see him in a smoking jacket just to say F you to the people that are looking at him. So,
smoking jacket in the darkness.
Yeah, he's a smelly dick.
So, Rugged Uncle is 100% butter and oil based, and that's exactly what your hair and scalp needs to be replenished. Water shouldn't be even in the top 5 ingredients of your hair care products, and it definitely shouldn't be number 1. You want to smell great. You want to be a Rugged Uncle. So go to ruggeduncle.com and order today. Use code AngryFans to get a 20% discount. Like I said in the opening, I think Brentwood, Tennessee is where our Rugged Uncle founder is from. So he might be the listener from Tennessee.
Could be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's guys, don't be 2024 Aaron Rodgers. Be 2017 Aaron Rodgers. Don't do it. It's a great point about Rodgers. He is so in need of some Rugged Uncle. Novak, you ought to send him some. I think that would get some of his swagger back.
I mean, whatever it takes, man. I will buy a boatload of Rugged Uncle if they could win a few games. So, yeah, I agree with you, Scott. He needs that. He needs to get his game back. He needs to feel like a man again because right now he's not.
They showed him on the sidelines with the Jets, like hat with the ball on top, like almost like it was a December game during that
Yeah.
game against the Bills. And he looked old. He looked angry. He looked depressed. He looked dejected.
You know
He's
what? That
probably
was
thinking of ways to throw Mike Williams under the bus in the
no,
post
no,
game.
no.
And
That was his way of saying, I miss my friend Devontae.
Little,
The
he
little
had,
baby went to the GM and said, if I had him, we would have won.
well, he did have that hat with the ball on top. Do you think he had the matching mittens that clip to your jacket
Oh, no
sleeve?
doubt. Definitely.
That is not rugged uncle material.
So, Mike, you got any pet peeves this week?
Yeah, I got a pet peeve this week. It comes, I've of course will, I wear Giants gear wherever I go. It's not a jersey or anything, but I usually have a ball cap on or a sweatshirt like this one. And it happened this week, and it's happened many times in the past, and even Novak will appreciate this one. You ever get the fan, and they don't even have to be a Bills fan, but when they see that you're a Giants fan, they're like, "Oh, there's only one team that plays in New York." Yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard that from someone somewhere over the years. And it just really gets under my skin. So I thought I would take the time today to give everyone listening. First of all, if you've ever said that to anybody, assuming you're not a Giants or Jets fan and you're listening, don't say that. Just don't. You make yourself look like such an ass. And I'll go into kind of why here. There's some of this, right? So the Giants and Jets play in East Rutherford, New Jersey. From Giant Stadium to the Lincoln Tunnel, which is where you cross from New Jersey into New York, is 6 miles, guys. It's 6 miles. So the Giants are 6 miles away from New York State, where they play. And yes, they are known as the New York Giants, and they play in New Jersey. We get it. That's really, really insightful of people to say that. Let me give you a few other teams that are lying to you about where they play. So, like I said, the Giants are 6 miles away from New York. The Las Vegas Raiders play in a town called Paradise, Nevada, which is outside of Las Vegas. So, welcome to the NFL, Paradise, the Paradise Raiders. All right, I guess you could call them the Nevada Raiders, and that would still be accurate. But they are not the Las Vegas Raiders. They don't play there. This is one I always used to throw back because I had a friend who was a Redskins fan back in the day who used to say that all the time. And I used to say, but the Redskins don't play in Washington. The Redskins play in Landover, Maryland. So that's like they don't play in Washington, D.C. They play in Landover, Maryland. And by the way, I looked this up. That is 9 miles. Landover is 9 miles from Washington, D.C. So they're even further. They're in a different state and further away. I think everyone knows the Dallas Cowboys do and has always played in Arlington, Texas, right? The Arlington Cowboys. Arlington is 20 miles away from Dallas.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's not like right next to Dallas. It's a drive to get out to Arlington from Dallas. So they could be the Texas Cowboys, they could be the Arlington Cowboys, but they can't apparently be the Dallas Cowboys. The San Francisco 49ers play in Santa Clara, California, 45 miles away from San Francisco. That's the biggest one. That's 45 miles. That is the biggest one out there. And then here's the one that I got the most chuckle out of. The Buffalo Bills play in Orchard Park, New York. That is a 13-mile drive from Buffalo to Orchard Park. So, okay, yeah, we're calling ourselves New York. We play in New Jersey. You're calling yourself Buffalo. You play in Orchard Park. Like I said, 13 miles. And then the last one was the Rams and the Chargers. The LA Rams, the LA Chargers play in Inglewood, California, which is about 13 miles roughly from Los Angeles. So everybody, learn some geography. Put that shit to bed.
Or do what the Patriots do. Just call yourselves New England. You capture an entire region there because Foxborough is not in Boston.
Yeah, no, Foxborough's nowhere near Boston, but they're not they used to be the Boston Patriots, but probably somebody said, you don't even play in Boston. And so they're like, well, he's right. Fuck, he's right. We'll just call it New England. How's that? It's not the Charlotte Panthers, it's the Carolina Panthers. They're very smart about that. The regional naming. That
You can
covers
move
the
quite a bit in the Carolinas and still be the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes.
Well, there are a lot of teams, right? I mean, the Golden State Warriors. I ever wondered that. What is that? The Golden. That's not
You
even
can
a
be
location.
anywhere in the state of California. You're okay with
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to. Right. So yeah, it's a lame argument. First of all, it's not even that insightful. And you can tell when people say it that they think they're being witty. Like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the same. That's the same guy that says that. Whose humor when on Halloween when you're not wearing anything is a great costume.
yeah,
Right. When you're
yes,
not right. It's the same exact kind of humor, which
you're
is
right.
not funny.
It's the same type of guy. Just the cliche arguments. Can't come up with anything else. Just has got to say that because you might not know that. You might not. Oh, like what do they expect I'm going to do with? Oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. You're right. Like, stop it. Everyone, if you do that, it's not funny. It's very lame. Stop doing it.
Yep.
By the way, I have to give my wife props when she gets very much into Halloween. But if you show up at Halloween and you don't have a costume on, you're not getting any candy. As a matter of fact, you're probably getting a lecture and getting sent off the porch. So
All
I
right.
do like that. I do like that a lot.
Standing,
Stephanie.
firm.
So actually, I'm going to go next with the pet peeve because my pet peeve is not that insightful, and I think Novak's will probably be a little bit better.
It's not.
But my pet peeve is about people who treat the spotlight as theirs instead of the real reason people are watching. It's come to light a lot because the baseball playoffs are going on, and I have to listen to Bob Costas ramble on and on about, like, what Bob Costas is going to do. He's going to always throw in at least 6 or 7 references to old players that he knows and experiences that he's had with them. And he's going to make it about them as someone's hitting a home run. He's going to be going, well, I was sitting down with Joe Morgan and there's a deep fly. That's a home run. But Joe Morgan and I were having lunch and he just completely talks over that. And it's very upsetting. The refs and the umpires, those guys, especially in basketball too, basketball refs, it's not just football refs, it's not just baseball umpires, but basketball refs too. They make themselves the broadcast or part of the game when we don't want to see them. We want to see the players play. I don't care if Dick Bavetta is making a foul call that's very aggressive in the NBA. I don't care if Angel Hernandez is showboating as he's making one of his terrible calls in Major League Baseball. And I really don't care if Ed Hockley's son is making a terrible call in the NFL because I don't want to see them. I only want to see the players, and the only reason you guys are there is just to mediate the game. You shouldn't be part of the fucking game itself. Nope. And it bothers the shit out of me in that regard. I just don't like attention whores as it is. And so my pet peeve is just that. It's attention whores, whether it's people that are doing it intentionally. I don't think Bob Costas does it intentionally. I just think he thinks that his stories are interesting to the rest of us, and the rest of us don't think they're interesting. and John Madden got away with that. John Madden told stories that were interesting to people. He made things relatable to the audience. And I think a lot of people have tried that tact over the years, and it falls flat when you're not providing the context of the game that you're showing. John Madden would say things out of his experience as it was relating to the game. He would talk to you about, when I was a coach, I would see this happen, and boom, they're in the hole. Bob Costas is telling you about his personal relationship with some player that's been dead 40 years that we don't give a fuck about. And that's the difference that I see between the two of them.
Yep. So many announcers have tried to emulate Madden in one way or another, whether it be the boom stuff or trying to tell relatable stories. 100% of them have failed. They just don't get it, and no one would get it. It's who he was. And when you're trying to imitate that, it just falls flat. It just sounds like a bad Madden impression, and it's not good. And Costas, I haven't watched a lot of baseball, but that dude is getting buried.
He should be though. He's so bad.
Yes. Yes.
He did the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in the ninth inning of a 1-run game when he was calling it the 6 degrees of Aaron Boone.
Oh,
It was like, I'm like,
interesting.
shut up. Let the game play out. And on top of it, Scott, you were saying about the umpires or the officials. Do you know how many times people come up to me that I introduce myself? Oh, Scott Novak, like the referee. Like I'm now associated with a ref. What?
People should even know who Scott Novak is.
No, they should not. And how many times have I gotten a text from someone saying, "Oh, are you reffing the game tonight against the Bengals?" And then, stop it! Like a ref. Give me a break.
I hate the fact that people talk about Ed Hockley still and his guns. Like they don't talk about his refereeing prowess. They talk about his muscles. What does that even have to do with being an NFL referee?
I know exactly one former baseball umpire's name, and it's because he's the worst umpire of all time.
Cowboy Joe West?
No, Angel Hernandez?
Angel Hernandez.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, he's just recently former.
Yeah. I know. I've never heard of any other. I don't know the name of anybody.
Well,
and you shouldn't.
I know one NFL official from the 70s and 80s because of my uncle was convinced that Jerry Markbright was a guy that officiated against the Giants. He was a massive Giants fan and season tickets, was convinced that Jerry Markbright and on purpose would officiate against the Giants. So
he's
Scott
right.
Scott can appreciate that.
I'd probably share that same sentiment.
You probably did.
The funny thing is, I don't have a favorite official, and it's one of those.
Oh, really,
things
Scott? That's a shocker.
No, but it's one of those things where I probably have a favorite official. I just don't know who his name is because I don't care to know their name.
That would be the one. Yeah,
if I don't know their name, that's probably makes them good.
You're probably right. That's a good point.
Yep. I do have a favorite official for one play because he didn't stop the play when Eli was in the middle of us getting sacked in the Super Bowl. That was that black guy. What was his name? He's got the big forehead.
Was it Mike Carey?
Is it Mike Carey? Yes, I think you're right. I think
was
it's
it Mike Carey? I'm trying to think if it was Mike Carey or the other guy who I can't think of his name right now. But yeah.
I always appreciated that.
Johnny Greer. Was it Johnny Greer? It might have
no,
been Johnny
I think it was
Greer.
Mike Carey. Mike Carey's the guy I think I'm thinking of.
Sounds right.
The fact that I know these guys' name is bad. It's bad. Fucking Dick Bavetta can fuck off too.
Yeah.
it's funny because Donahue is like become like the evil incarnate upon all NBA officials. That guy probably is down really low on the rung of NBA officials that are corrupt. Novak, pet peeve?
Yeah, so mine is not that good today, Scott. You set me up really poorly here. So I watched a lot of football this weekend, watched a lot of games. I thought actually this was actually not a bad weekend of football. The college games were good. The NFL games were good. Some were decent. But I watched the Washington-Baltimore game, a lot of that. And I sat through this 2.5-hour tongue bath over Jaden Daniels. Can this guy play a half a season before we anoint him as a Hall of Famer? Like, it was every single play that this guy, like, he couldn't hand the ball off more perfectly. and to the point where, and I think I texted you guys this, Tracy Wolfson, who I can't stand. She is just the most insufferable sideline reporter of all of them. Interviewed Dan Quinn, and her report back was, Jaden Daniels loves the game. He loves to watch film. And I think preparation is off the charts. Oh, really? Really, Tracy? This is what we're going to say about this guy already? He's played 5 games, and his preparation is off the charts. He's the first one in and last one out.
Oh, God.
It started already.
I've never heard that about a player. There's guys
I've never heard that in my life. No. But my thing is, like, last year, this was C.J. Stroud. It's like we've forgotten about this guy because he's not the new shiny toy that the NFL has to trot out as the next great quarterback. Just let these guys play a few years before you anoint them. Like, it's so tiring. I've got to hear about Jaden Daniels already. And I'm not saying he's not going to be great. He probably will. But stop. Enough with these guys. That was
Novak,
my pet peeve.
the number of times I've heard that I have to deal with Jaden Daniels for the next 10 years. It's one of those things that people say, but they said it with RG3. They've said it with a bunch of people.
Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you go down the list of guys that it doesn't necessarily always work out for. And it's been 6 games, this guy.
RG3 is the first guy that comes to mind when I think of him. And it's not just because he happens to play for Washington, but it's just the trajectory is about the same. He's smaller guy and not very beefy. And I see it. I don't see this guy being a sustained great quarterback in this league. Speaking of RG3, I heard something, guys. Apparently, when remember when Mike Shanahan coached the Redskins?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when RG3 was there. That's when they drafted him. And that's when they also took Kirk Cousins, same draft. Apparently, some behind the scenes stuff I heard this past week. Mike Shanahan wanted Kirk Cousins and was willing to wait for him. The owner wanted RG3. So they kind of compromised and took both in the draft. After the first year, in which I believe RG3 won Rookie of the Year, I believe.
Yep.
Apparently, Mike Shanahan tried to convince Dan Snyder at that time to trade him. Just said, this is not sustainable. He's going to get hurt. He's not going to be very good. We've got a quarterback on the roster who can play, and we can get a haul for the rookie who just won Rookie of the Year of draft picks. And Daniel Snyder said, I'm not doing that.
Huh. Sounds like something the Panthers would have done.
Yeah. Don't know how much truth there is to that. I mean, but hearing that story also made me think, do you know how bad the Redskins organization would have been ripped if they did that? Because people never go back and apply hindsight to things like that.
Never.
The media would be calling them stupid. The fans would be going bananas because RG3. And with hindsight, we can see that would have been the perfect play there.
Kirk Cousins is still in the league. RG3's been out for the last 2 years.
Long time. Yeah.
Yep.
So we do have some questions this week. Our friend Ogre, and this is for Novak. He asks, should we, Ogre's a Jets fan. So he asks if we should start, bench, or cut the former QBs of the Jets that have been Packers. So you have the Dick, the guy that sends dick pics, and Tim Boyle.
Ooh. That's a really good question. Obviously, start, bench, and cut. Obviously, I'm cutting Tim Boyle. I think, only because he only played 1 year and he didn't, other than sending dick pics, he didn't quite torpedo the organization like the Dick has. I would probably start Brett Favre. And I would bench Aaron Rodgers as of right now. Now, talk to me if he wins this week. I might change my mind, but as of right now, I'd put Brett Favre in there, a gunslinger. He's more of a New York guy, I think, than the Dick anyway. So that I think that's how I would lean.
Yeah, I actually would probably do that same rationale.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yep.
Favre's a creep. There's no doubt about it, but I'd probably still start him.
I don't know how much of a creep Rodgers might not be too. The guy goes into dark retreat, so he can't really.
I think there's a difference between being a creep and a dick.
In there?
Yeah, the Dick is the right. You guys nailed it. It's the right name. Favre is a creep.
So I'm not sure where Peacock was going with this question. Peacock asked us if we were all billionaires and we could buy an NFC team to win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, who are you buying? If I'm buying a team in the next 3 years, I'm buying the Giants and I'm turning them around and making them into a Super Bowl team. Really, I think I could do that. I think I could. At least if Daniel Snyder thinks he could, I could. I think I could.
I'm buying the Lions. Sorry, they're just more talented.
But aren't the Lions already there?
Well,
Yeah,
the
but they're
question
gonna
was
be in
who's going to
3
win it
years.
in the next 3 years. They're the most talented team. I'm buying the Lions.
Yeah. I'm definitely not buying the Vikings. It would be tempting for people to say, "Oh, the Vikings, their window just opened." Um, not buying the Panthers.
No, no.
um, Gosh, I'd have to say the Lions too. I can't really. I think people are way too high on Green Bay. I think way too high on Green Bay. I think Green Bay is in the middle between good and great, but people already are putting them at great. I don't think they're there. Um, the Bears, I don't trust Caleb Williams. I don't trust it. I haven't seen it with my eyes yet. Um, the 49ers, maybe. 49ers trade Christian McCaffrey, get a bunch of draft picks, start over.
Or what the Panthers did.
Hire Jeff. Yeah, my plan is exactly the same as David Tepper's. See how that trade Nick Bosa.
So Peacock also asks, would you trade a number one pick for a guaranteed difference maker right now? I don't know if I would. And the reason I say that is because, at least in the Giants case, I'm not sure which difference maker we could get. If it's a quarterback, I might go for a veteran quarterback, but if we trade our number one pick, then we don't have that pick next year to give that person weapons. So I would not do what the Jets did and trade for Devontae Adams. I think is what he was getting at there.
I mean, it depends on who you're talking about. The difference. Would I trade a number one pick for Jaden Daniels? Yes. I mean, but aside from a quarterback, probably not. Maybe Neighbors I would trade for.
I did see a lot of chatter this week about the Giants trade for Matthew Stafford, and I see that as bad of a fit as Daniel Jones is, because
that's a bad
Matthew
one.
Stafford to me is at the end of his career. He can't thrive without weapons.
Yeah. I love these like mid-season trade things that come up, as if, the fan bases always think, oh, they're not playing this guy, or they're on a shitty team. Surely they'll jettison their quarterback to us for a second and a bag of balls. No.
Could you maybe see the Chargers getting rid of Herbert to the Giants?
I can't. I think Harbaugh loves Herbert.
Yeah.
I personally wonder what Herbert's done in his career to warrant the love, but that's my perception. But the people around him, I think, like him.
Okay. Yeah, I heard the same. I haven't heard it go as far as that's one of the big reasons Harbaugh wanted that job.
Okay.
Was because Herbert was there. Now I'll tell you this: trade us Harbaugh and Herbert. Now I'm on board.
And you don't want JJ McCarthy.
No, I don't want JJ. I'm not trying to rebuild Michigan over here.
No.
So my friend Stu actually asks a question for us to handicap the NFC East race to the bottom. So if I look at this, since I had the beauty of seeing this question first, the Giants have to be the odds-on favorite to be in the bottom, because that's just who we are. And I almost agree with Peacock when he was on that Dallas would be next, then Philly. Then I hate to say this, but I think this might be that one rare time Washington wins the division like they have been doing, and then they're out in the first round.
Yeah, they're definitely a first round out team. Dallas right now is 3-3, but their point differential is minus 42. And yeah, they just lost to Detroit by about that much, but didn't the Saints really destroy them too? And the point differential got tightened up against the Ravens, but it was that same type of game. I heard someone this week say the Cowboys will continue to beat up on the Cream Puffs and get killed by the good teams. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment of the Cowboys, which probably puts them in the middle somewhere. I think the Giants-Eagles game this week will tell us a lot about where these teams are. But yeah, if you're handicapping it right now, the Giants are going to finish last.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
which means we might go to Carolina next year.
Yeah,
That'd be
it
good.
will end up.
As long as they don't move it to Munich.
Yeah, it'll be in Baghdad.
So we didn't mention this, by the way. Goodall wants to see 16 games out of an 18-game season. He wants to see 16 games overseas.
I mean,
who's that for?
Exactly. Why are we doing this? I'm almost at the point giving up on that crap. Like, I hate these Sunday morning games at 9. I hate them. Hate them. So dumb. And good. Take the Jaguars and the Patriots this weekend. Fine. But God, I'm so sick of the international.
By the way,
so
the
stupid.
Jaguars, 2 weeks in a row, they stay over in jolly old Ireland, and then they play again.
No one cares about them. Let them stay over there all year.
It's true. Although they probably
they couldn't even beat the fucking Bears.
Do they get the Duval chant over there?
I don't think they do. I think they get probably a British chant of some sort.
One of those soccer chants.
So my friend Mike Harrison, he says, if the Lions could overcome Hutch's injury, who do you like to go against them from the AFC other than the Chiefs?
From the NFC. So a Super Bowl preview.
So he's assuming the Lions are going to be the NFC contingent, which I really don't agree with right now. But
Hutchinson's a big loss.
If I look at the AFC, I can't necessarily put the Bills in there. I think the way they're playing now, and they're still struggling. But I think I did this in the preseason. I think I want the Ravens. I'm still going with the Ravens.
I mean, real quick on the Hutchinson thing, watch them trade for Reddick with the Jets, just putting it out there. The second thing is I would say, look, this is the NFL. They want the Chiefs in there. The Chiefs are going to be right back in there. I'm telling you, they're 5-0. They'll go through a little bit of a midseason slump for 3-4 games, and they'll be right back in it, and they'll win in the playoffs again. So I'll put the Chiefs in there.
Yeah, so I have to pick someone different than that.
He actually said other than the Chiefs.
Oh, he did say other than the Chiefs? I'm sorry.
He didn't say other than the Chiefs.
Then I would go with the Ravens too. Sorry.
Yeah, if you can't pick the Chiefs, then you got to go to the Ravens. I don't trust the Texans. This Pittsburgh thing, I don't know where the hell this is coming from. And I don't know. Maybe if the Chiefs are 5-0, but they're not a Chiefs 5-0.
No, they're not. They're not.
They kind of look really vulnerable.
They're a league manufactured 5-0.
Yeah, that's true.
Can we say that, or is that not applicable?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
There's really no one else. I mean, it's a pretty weak overall league in both sides this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all pick the final four. Let's be honest.
I'm not sure we can yet, because I think we're going to see injuries play a part. Now that Hutchinson injury was
it was pretty big. I agree.
Yeah.
It was gross too.
Yeah,
on top of it.
That's what I mean. It was one of those gruesome injuries. You remember, like I remember Tim Crumry's, and this is a
Theismann, Crumry. Yep.
Yeah.
It's bad.
You guys got anything else today?
Yeah, predictions, Scott.
Predictions.
We did do predictions, didn't we? Oh, we should have done predictions early on. I think because Cardone's not here, I forgot about predictions. Fuck me. All right, I'm turning it over to Mike, because Mike runs predictions.
Further proof that we are completely unscripted here. We are just winging it. We are just absolutely winging it. So
I had it written down too.
So let's see. After last week, Novak got the 2-0 last week. Novak and Cardone got 2-0s. Scott got the 0-2, and Mike got the 1-1. So the new standings are, let's see, Novak is a very impressive 9-3. Cardone and Mike are tied at 7-5. And Scott is 500, still above the Mendoza line, but 500 for the
6-6.
6-6. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So Novak, kick us off.
All right. I'll start with the Jets. You would think, based on my rant earlier, that I would be down on this team, which I am. I look. I think the Jets will find a way to win this game. How, I don't know. Nothing says that they should, but I think the Devontae Adams, maybe they've got an extra week with Todd Downing as offensive coordinator. Maybe they find a way to win outside of Met Death. So I have the Jets here 27-24. This one may shock you. I didn't know about Andrew Thomas. So if I did not know about that, my pick for this game was going to be Giants 31, Eagles 20, because I feel like the Eagles are on the precipice of the team that is on the downward slide because of Sirianni, and they just don't seem like they're missing something with that team. So that said, I don't think the Giants are going to blow them out like I would have said. I like the Giants here. I think they're going to win this game at Met Death because they have this tendency to, like, right when you guys are about to write them off, they just do enough to get you back in. And I think this is the spot they do it. Giants 23, Eagles 21.
All right. Who's got Cardone's in front of him? Cardone mailed his in this week.
I do have Cardone's. If you give me a second, just a second. Yep. So Cardone, his predictions are he has Philly beating the Giants 23-16. And then he has the Jets winning 24-17. So very, very similar scores.
Yep.
24-17. Okay. All right. I will start with the Jets as well. I agree with Novak, but the biggest thing for me here is I can't imagine this Steelers team with Russell Wilson making his first start, if he does, being a 5-2 football team. I mean, it's amazing to me enough that they're a 4-2 football team. I think the Jets are set up here. They've played good teams tough this year. I don't think Pittsburgh is a good team, despite the record. So I am going to take the Jets in this one. And I think the Jets just do a number on them on defense. I've got 21-9 for the Jets in this one. For the Giants in Philly, like I said earlier, I have been thinking really since the end of the Bengals game about how I had this good feeling. This is the Giants are going to end this madness with the Eagles. And it may not end up being an end to it, but it's a blip, right? Maybe it's just a blip, but just something's got to give here. They don't play well at home. Of course, we know their history with the Eagles. And I there's something in me that thinks that Novak's right about this. But I'm going to lean back on they've got to beat the Eagles before I can pick them to beat the Eagles. So I am going to say Philly wins this game, and I'm going to say the score is 27-24.
So I think I went 1-1 last week because I think I picked the Giants to lose. Actually, I think I picked the Giants to lose and the Jets to lose.
You picked the Giants to win 24-23.
But I picked the Bills to beat the Jets, right?
And you picked the Bills.
Yeah. Okay. So at least I had one win.
Oh, yeah, you did. You went 1-1.
Yeah.
I picked Cincinnati and the Jets, so I went 1-1. All right, my apologies.
Well, I'm still in the basement. No, I understand.
Oh yeah, no, 1-1 makes you 6-6. I'm sorry that I said you were 0-2. You were 1-1. That's correct.
Yeah, but I am 6-6, like you said.
You are 6-6.
And so when I think about that, and I'll start with the Jets first. I have a tough time believing in the Steelers, but I believe in Mike Tomlin. And I think with Mike Tomlin, whether it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, I think Mike Tomlin's going to get the best out of that team. And for me, I think the Jets will lose, the Steelers will win, and somehow credit will go to Russell Wilson. That's probably less deserved than it is for the Steeler defense. So I look at this as being a 20-7 game. On the Giants side, the Andrew Thomas injury bothers me a lot. I think that's a bad injury. I also, they're playing at home again. I see that as being an issue. And I think Saquon is going to come in and have what we said before in the preseason, 2 to 3 touchdowns against the Giants. And I see this I really want the Giants to win. I think they can because Jalen Hurts has not looked good, but I just don't see it happening. So I see the Eagles winning this game with Saquon getting 2 touchdowns, whether it's from 1 yard out or from further, 30-10.
Ooh. All right, there we go. Novak's got the Giants. The rest of us have Philly, and Koss has Pittsburgh. The rest of us have the Jets.
Wow. That's a first. Why I picked both of these teams, I have no idea, but whatever.
I wonder what kind of like prop odds you could get this week on Saquon Barkley 1 touchdown.
Oh, it's got to be high.
I would put my house on the line for that. I mean, it's going to get it, and he's going to get it early. I mean, there's no doubt about that in my mind.
He's going to do the Giant celebration too, flipping the ball over. And,
flipping the ball. Yep.
So you got anything else this week, guys?
Nope. Mets are down 4-0. They're not going to win this series. And let me just say that I love this team. I don't care if I do care if they lose to the Dodgers, but this team has overperformed. Can the Jets just overperform once, like this team that has just great vibes? Love this team.
The Dodgers have a lot of firepower.
Yeah, they do. Dodgers are going to be tough to beat.
The odds, the number of times a team has come back from that devastating 2-1 series deficit. I know that's a big, I know.
we know Novak likes to be pessimistic about it.
I do.
Quite a hill to climb.
I am
by the way,
I'm not unapologetic.
We're in the bottom of the 7th now, for those of you listening. Bottom of the 7th, Dodgers lead by 4 runs, and the series is tied 1-1. And Novak has thrown in the series.
It's what I do.
It's awesome.
So we are the 3 Angry Giant fans. Check out our website at www.angryfootballfans.com and see our sponsors. So we have the Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina, as well as Rugged Uncle. So go to ruggeduncle.com and check them out. Anything else, guys? Next week we'll be back to talk about probably more misery, but we have the Jets against the Steelers. There's a little bit of hope there, and then the Giants get the Eagles. We never know what we're going to see, but as of now, we're looking at being out of contention by Halloween.
Again.
Halloween.